Welcome to another invigorating episode of Coffee with Convery. Today, we're joined by the true luminary in the world of talent acquisition, Corey Shaw. He's the founder of North Star Talent based right here in the heart of Toronto. Corey has a Bachelor of Degree in History from Wilfrid Laurier University and has forged an illustrious career path distinguished by his unwavering commitment to excellence. From his tenure as a talent acquisition leader at TD, CIBC, Canada Life, Cooperators, and currently the Salvation Army, he has built strategies to attract and hire exceptional talent. Corey's journey has been marked by a visionary leadership and a transformative impact. Corey's story is one of continual evolution, demonstrated by his curiosity, his prowess as a natural networker, fostering collaborative environments where teams thrive. Corey's unwavering commitment to empowering teams and enhancing organizational excellence is so evident. As the founder of North Star Talent, he has dedicated himself to guiding organizations towards attracting and nurturing outstanding and diverse talent. Corey, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Brian. It's great to be here.
It's so great for you to be here. I'm so excited. It's been a long time coming, my friend. So let's start with some rapid fire questions. What are your pronouns?
He and him.
Alrighty. And what is your superpower?
Positivity, and a desire to help others. It's sort of what I love to
We need more Corys in the world right now, I'll tell you.
do.
All right, I
Thank you.
love that. Do you have a favorite smell?
Oh my God, yes. Bread when it comes right out of the oven, and it's just so
Uh,
invigorating and it reminds me of when I was little and my mom would make wonderful bread. That's my favorite smell.
oh my God, brings such back memories, and it's such a great warming and cozy smell, isn't it? It's awesome.
It
Um,
is.
Best compliment you've ever received?
This is gonna be funny, but one of the great companies I worked for, when I left, somebody told me that they cried when I left the organization, and
Oh,
it touched me. It made me so proud that I had an impact on them. And honestly, Brian, I had a tear in my eye too. I felt the same way. I thought that was such a nice thing.
such impact and such humanity in that feeling and compliment. That's so great. I love it. Um, we all have guilty pleasures or go-to snacks. What's yours?
Oh my God, Reese peanut butter cups. I only buy like the little packs of three because if they sold them in 10, I'd eat them all at once. I just love them.
I knew that's why we like each other. I love Reese's peanut butter cups. It's the one candy I just really love too. So, anyways, yes, good. Nothing like a good Reese's peanut butter cup.
Nothing
Um,
like it.
what was your favorite subject in school?
History. I was so lucky to be inspired by Mrs. Day in grade nine, and I've loved history ever since. I'm a guy that just loves looking into the past to get perspective about today. You know?
Yeah, it's such a great thing to look at and such a great subject matter too. Can teach us a lot. Um, we all started somewhere with a job and something we picked up, I guess, early in life. What was your very first job?
Probably, well, I was going to say like a lot of folks, I'm not sure, but paper routes. So I used to
Oh,
deliver the Sunday Sun and the Oakville Beaver. And I remember getting up super early in the morning and putting all the inserts in and then delivering them. That was my first
did you ride a bike or walk?
job. I did both.
Okay.
I eventually got smart and built a little cart attached to my bike because they were allowed me to do it faster.
That makes sense. That makes sense. I think some generations today would be like, what is that role? But
You're right.
yeah, I do miss that though. I used to love getting the paper on my stoop and like just reading through it. And I don't know, I do miss that a bit. It's so nostalgic. But I guess we've moved on to digital media.
We
Uh,
have.
so one last question and we'll get into your story. But if you had to pick one word to describe yourself, what would you pick?
I guess I'd pick the word that most leaders play back to me and people that I've worked with, and then that's being passionate. I
Awesome.
really care about what I do and who I partner with, and that's the word I would.
Yeah, that comes shining through, especially now, even on this interview. You're a passionate guy. All right, so let's go back and, we have our listeners here. Don't know if I shared a little bit about the demographics, but we have a younger generation of 15 all the way up to 35 as our primary audience. So people going through those transformational moments, think about high school to school to first job kind of thing. We also have other people who are thinking about career changes. So this is such a great opportunity for you to tell us a little bit about how you got where you are, but also to share with your insights as we get deeper in the questions. So let's go back a little bit to where you grew up and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my parents originally came from Alberta, and when I was, I think, 1 year old, we moved to Montreal and lived on the west side of the city. And I had two wonderful older sisters, and then we eventually moved to the Toronto area, and just was so lucky to be part of a family that was hardworking and respectful in a nurturing environment. As I shared, my sisters, and they're still my inspiration today. They gave me that flexibility, that openness to be an independent thinker and spirit, and yeah, I'm blessed in terms of my upbringing.
That's awesome. Were you in the middle of the sisters or were you the youngest? Old? How did that fit?
I was the spoiled youngest.
Okay. All right, that
And
explains a lot. No, I'm kidding.
it sure does. By the time I came along, a lot of
All
the
right.
rules went out the window, Brian.
That's what they say. I'm the oldest, so I think I had to break my parents in. But yeah, no, the youngest. Yeah, I think at that point, depending how many there is, they're sometimes like, we've been through this route. So
Yeah.
let's talk about your amazing and extensive experience in talent acquisition and how we got to know each other. What advice would you give to maybe job seekers tuning in today about navigating this ever-changing and competitive job market?
Yeah, it's a great question. And yeah, I like to encourage people to stay curious, and continue to engage in a diverse range of activities. Whether it's helping out in their community, whether it's joining a digital forum, whether it's, picking up a part-time opportunity, and continue to be your authentic self wherever you show up,
Yeah,
digitally, in person, align your resume. To me, there are so many amazing ways to participate in the economy today, especially with post COVID and sometimes that, call it, democratization of the talent landscape. And so there's just a really diverse range of ways to participate and get involved. And so that's the big thing, I think, these days.
yeah, I think that's a great advice, staying curious. I think sometimes that's one of the things that as we age or mature, as a kid, we're so curious about everything, and then somehow we start to put that to the side. But it's such a great skill to have, and especially like you said, looking for jobs and being out there, it's such a great opportunity to think differently and be curious about what could be next, right? It's some
So
great
well
thoughts.
said. It's like sometimes people have an idea of what it's like in that area, and if if you stay curious and you continue to meet with people and investigate, sometimes it opens your eyes to it's not exactly what you thought it was, and you might love it. And,
That's
and
right.
that's why I think you need to continue to engage in those diverse range of activities so that you can get a clearer picture, and then you might find that that's your career opportunity.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So another insightful view I want to get from you is can you share some ideas around how job seekers can leverage networking? I feel like this is something that is, I would say, almost over talked about, but it is something that does exist. And if you do it well, it can really help you. But, it's definitely needed, I guess, even to uncover this, what I call hidden job opportunities, because sometimes before it even gets posted, they may have someone in mind. And, if you can get in with that conversation early or through your networking opportunities. But I want to hear from you. What's your thoughts on networking? Yeah.
That kind of, for me, starts with your home base. Like, folks are always sometimes shocked when they start to write down all the people that are in their support group, from way back when to when they were in school to when they were part of a study group or part of a summer camp or part of
Yeah.
a part-time job. And you start to list all the folks that are in your sort of your support network that you might not have chatted to for a long time or connected with. And those people are there for you. You've built the trust and rapport and connection with those people. So leverage that and reconnect with them. And
Yeah,
as you do that and you go through those conversations about, what you're interested to do, your curiosity, they're going to help you, right? Of course, you do want to always continue to research, investigate, and I use this term. It's called being savvy to get to first degree of separation or those insights on things. And
yeah,
what I mean by that is that you know today's world, there's so many opportunities to uncover what's happening in either that organization or with that job, or that opportunity, by leveraging your network and using social media and getting to those conversations where you get a very clear picture of what that opportunity is. They might know the hiring leader, they
yeah,
might know the a person in the culture of the organization, and you're so empowered to get that insight. So then you're better positioned to say, yeah, this is an amazing opportunity for me, and
yeah,
how can I get connected in? So leveraging your home network, being savvy about making those connections to people, because it's amazing how many people can help you out that.
yeah. I think I want to ask you a little bit more because as you were talking about reconnecting, and thinking about people, as you said, all the way back to different parts of your life. Um, I have a question here. I just want to make a comment first, but because I recently reached out to someone who was my partner in consulting years ago, and I wanted to get her thoughts on something, and I wanted to introduce her to someone. And the feedback I got from her was like, so wonderful to hear from you. And I'm talking decades.
Okay.
Okay. How so wonderful to hear from you. Can we also set up time to catch up? And I'm like, yeah, absolutely. I'd love to chat with you. It's been so long. And sometimes I think we're fearful of bothering someone or going back too far, like it might not be the response we think, which maybe they won't. But if you have these people that have sort of been in your support group, I don't think time matters. What do you think about that?
That is so fascinating. And I agree, because there was somebody about 2 years ago that had reached out to me because they were investigating a job opportunity, and they thought I might know a little bit of information about it. And we got reconnected. And I hadn't probably talked to her in over 15 years, Brian. It's a long
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
And you know what she started the call with? She said, Corey, she said, I think we dealt here, we did that there. She goes, and I can't, and my memory's fuzzy. She goes, but I do always remember that, we would laugh our way through our conversations. You had a good sense of humor. And as I was coming onto this call to reconnect with you, that those were the memories I had. And I said to her, I said, I have the same memories, right? And
yeah,
so I think there's something innate in us to reconnect with people, stay connected, and say you might forget what they said or what they did, but not
yeah.
how they made you feel, right?
That's it.
And that was memorable for me when we reconnected.
That's it. It's how they made you feel. And that's why when people approach networking from such a process-driven approach, you're missing it, right? Because you got to go for that piece of that, the true connection, right? I love that.
Well,
Thank you. Yeah.
well said. And in this case, this person, ended up getting some great insight about the job. She did get the job, and then we had a nice lunch afterwards to celebrate.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. That's awesome. So, yeah, for our listeners, if you're listening to this piece, like, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to reach back out to someone that's been a while because you never know. And I honestly, LinkedIn is such a really good tool for that beyond just like looking for jobs. You can really like find people, connect in a way that, maybe you haven't seen them. It's something that I think is super important to do. Um, let's talk about skills because skills is such a topic these days too in our world of talent. And whether you talk about hard skills and soft skills or human skills or hard skills, but at the end of the day, there's certain skills that I think each of us, all of us need to have to be effective, to be, um, you know, putting our best foot forward in the roles and different things. So, as someone who leads talent acquisition efforts in various organizations, what are some of the skills that you looked at, not looked like, looked at when evaluating candidates?
Great question. And there's so many to choose from, but if I had
Yeah,
to boil it down to a list, it would be I really look for that curiosity, and it sort of tells you that the person is a bit of a lifelong learner, but it also tells me that, that they have a good ego in check, right? Like
yeah,
that they have that. I do love resourcefulness, people that can figure stuff out. We know there's always going to be ambiguity and
yeah,
challenges, and how do you use that savviness, that resourcefulness? Um, People use resilience. I say tenacity, right? Like at the end of the day, um, how do you continue to move forward and get through things and hopefully get to that better place. And the last one, probably I should have started with it, is that a caring persona, people that
yeah.
want to help others, right?
Yep,
And I think that that's just something to be.
it is. You're right. And it's such an important attribute to have. Just back up from the situation once in a while. Look at everyone you're dealing with is a human being behind that requisition or job application, right? So, and then we're humans as recruiters. We want to help you. So don't fear us. We're the people that help you.
That's
Um,
right.
I think the other special thing is being in town is we have a lot of stories to tell of, to your point, people we've impacted, we've met who, in a lot of cases, people don't realize we still stay in touch with some of these people because everyone remembers their recruiter, and that could be good or bad. We'll talk about the good
Oh
side.
yeah.
We'll talk about the good side. So do you have an experience with a candidate that, maybe you could talk about like a success story that was really interesting for you and how, how that all transpired?
Yeah, it just came out of the blue. I was interviewing for a role. It was interviewing somebody for a frontline role at a large organization, and halfway through the interview, the person just sort of stopped and said, "Do you mind if I sing you a song?" And I said, "Oh, okay." I was a bit flabbergasted, and they said, "No." They said, I really want this job, and I thought about it, and so I wrote a song about how much I want this job. And halfway through the interview, he gets out his digital piano and he sang me the song. And honestly, I was a bit shocked at first, and then I thought about it afterwards. It's actually a pretty good tune. And I thought, if he's gone that far to really want the job and he's that creative, we should give him that opportunity. We hired him, and he
Did
did
you?
wonderful in the role.
I love that is the coolest story I've ever heard. That is the coolest story. I don't think I've heard any. I think we need a podcast just on these stories. Maybe we got to get a bunch of us together and I'll share one of these stories because that's incredible.
It just was. And I remember afterwards, my leader was in the next office and he heard singing and he came in afterwards going, "What was that all about?"
Oh my gosh. Yeah, totally. I would be too like, what is going on in there? Wow, that's really cool. Thanks for sharing that. All right, let's jump into, thank you for sharing a lot of insights and ideas for our listeners, talking about what to think about as they're pursuing their careers and their opportunities. But let's talk and spin a little bit more back onto you and let's chat about North Star. Can you tell me and our audience what it's all about?
Yeah, no, thank you. And listen, I spent decades being honored to lead talent acquisition teams and programs at many wonderful organizations. And I just have this deep desire to help companies improve their hiring process, for a great candidate experience, for really good hiring quality. And yet it amazes me today how many conversations with leaders where they agree that those things are critically important, but they don't have the trusted, measurable data to know how is their hiring. And so North Star is all about my superpower to
Yeah.
help organizations create that thoughtful plan, that roadmap to hiring success, and working with their teams to architect the processes and the right technologies to improve their hiring. So I call it North Star Talent because it's truly enabling them to find their unique North Star for their hiring.
Yeah, no, so powerful, and it makes sense like that you're in this space now and looking at that. But how did it all start?
Yeah, you know what? For me, and you get better as you go in your career. And in one organization, I just started with designing a talent audit. Get that perspective on the current reality.
Yeah,
What is happening in the space of talent, internal hiring, external hiring, and what's that aspirational place,
yeah,
right? That we want to get to for that organization. So that's the approach we take. We
yeah.
start with a talent audit. We identify the current reality. What does success look like? And then the hard work begins. It's about designing and building, implementing and sustaining the changes. And it's an overused axiom, but it is about harmonizing people, process, and technology. and
Absolutely.
and then once you've got that stood up, it's about nurturing the program, using the trusted data, doing the monitoring to ensure that the hiring is effective, there's a great candidate experience, there's great quality hiring, and then continuously improving. So that's sort of the approach we take.
It makes sense. Can I ask you a question about the aspirational place that you're trying to understand? I would think that that's a challenging conversation to have with a client because, of course, they want to be the best out there and attract the best talent and all those things. Obviously, that's who doesn't want to do that. But that I love that you focus on that aspirational place, which is special because you're asking the question, what's important to you? Where do you want to get to? And I'm assuming that journey is different for different clients. So is that I don't know if what my question is here, but is that an interesting sort of space to explore with clients? I guess that's my question.
It Great question, Brian. And that's the unique North Star of that organization, that is really understanding why they exist, what are their organizational values, and then taking that wisdom and saying, okay, if your organizational values are to be inclusive and equitable, and you desire to have a great customer experience, and whatever those aspects are, and then building their talent practices,
Yeah.
anchored by their own values and desire in their organization, and then really saying, okay, the current reality is we aren't as diversity friendly maybe as we should be. We aren't as inclusive in terms of our approach. We're not giving a great candidate experience, and hey, 80% of candidates will actually walk away as a customer if you give them a poor
hmm
experience. So you start to draw those, call it causal
hmm
alignment, those links to what the company is trying to achieve. Um, uh, on, I guess I would say, the business side. And then we all know what makes a business go. It's talent. It's those people that are going to spend time with their expertise, their passion, to devote itself to the organization's success. And that's where I draw the alignment to say, I can help you build that hiring program that has that alignment.
That makes sense. And I think what people miss sometimes is that what you're bringing to the table, you're the catalyst sometimes for those conversations to start. Because sometimes when you ask that question, I'm sure the looks in the room are like, we haven't thought, or we don't know what we want to be, or we know what we don't want to be. But that's such a positive consulting approach that you take with your organization. And I think that that's one where I think many people, even if there's employers listening to this call today and thinking about their own landscape, is like, you got to really start with that aspirational sort of where do you want to go with this? Because you could spin on that, or think you want one thing and then you start working on it and they want something else. So yeah, that's a really cool place to start and to look at. So thanks
Well,
for
and
sharing
and
that. Yeah.
you and I know that anything in life worth achieving requires a really good plan, right?
Yeah.
But if you're going to construct a plan, what does that aspirational place look like? So you're right. It sometimes is one part dreaming, one part alignment to values. But if you don't have a clear picture of that aspirational place, what are you planning for? And that's sort of how I like to guide organizations.
Awesome. What if some of your learnings from working with these clients? Just
Oh,
curious.
you know what? So many learnings, but honestly, the biggest thing I find is that there are so many different talent technologies available in the marketplace. You
Yeah,
know, if you think back to 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, and then today, there's just been a plethora of different technologies and HR information systems and sourcing and attracting technologies and CV grading tools and onboarding tools. Like there's so many that are out there, and it's about being intentional about deploying the technologies with a good process to elevate candidate experience and hiring quality. This is why I'm passionate about having
yeah,
a thoughtful, customized plan so that they use the technologies to elevate candidate experience and hiring quality.
yeah, yeah. It makes sense. It makes sense. And I think that's such a big part of what you do as an organization. And when companies look at all these tech stacks of things they're doing, it's sometimes like a alphabet soup trying to navigate through all that and what talks to each other, what doesn't talk to each other, and ultimately what affects your candidate experience, right? Really
It's
cool,
so
interesting.
true, Brian. You know, it's so funny. Just a quick
Yeah,
anecdote.
yeah.
I was chatting to a person who's in the talent technology space, just a wonderful guy. He's been there. And he said, Corey, he goes, what frustrates me the most is when a company adopts our technology and turns it on without doing the right connectivity into their process management so that it can work effectively with the right measurements. And he said, it can be turnkey technology, but it's not meant to do it that way. You've got to do it as part of that hiring architecture. And that really resonates with me.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, this has been such a insightful, wonderful catch up with you today. Always a pleasure to see you. Is there anything that maybe I haven't thought about asking or something that you wanted to share maybe with the listeners as we kind of close out?
Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me, Brian. I adore your expertise and your leadership in the talent marketplace. It's so much to be inspired by,
Mhm.
and
Thank you.
having me on this podcast is just so wonderful. I'm just going to say, interestingly enough, with North Star, I am more curious than ever to learn from others. I do have a bit of a calling to help people. So whether it's a company looking to improve their hiring process, a colleague in the talent game like yourself, or a candidate seeking advice, reach out. We're here for each other, and that would be my message.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you may get some reach outs. I bet you will from this podcast from people as job seekers, companies, and others. And again, I such a great opportunity to talk with you today, and thank you again. So this was Corey Shaw from North Star. You can find all his information out there on LinkedIn and on his websites. But it has been a great pleasure, Corey. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brian. All the best.
All right. So for the listeners, if you liked what you heard today, please share this podcast with your network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts. You can also give us a rating, and you can also follow us at Coffee with Convery on Instagram, where all of our stories and features are available. This has been Coffee with Convery, and until next time, please stay well.